Real Talk with God's Wisdom videos, parts 1 through 7, are available at cdhrwdrmd.org and downloadable for on up to 3 devices for one low price. You will learn about overcoming the initial shock of narcissist abuse, adapting to the spiritual norm, radical accepting the narcissist is a narcissist, radio frequency poisoning, and more for trauma healing, spiritual growth, and heightened awareness. You get a one-on-one coaching session to remind you that you are not crazy. These videos are a great addition to your digital library that will serve you well long into the future. Thank you for downloading. Sending love and light always. All right. Yeah, instead of doing the countdown clock, God told me to do that while the notifications go out. And so let me go ahead and come on over here and do our usual check. That's right. Okay. This is the Truth Seeker podcast. Okay. Yes, we do the Truth Seeker. And as truth seekers, right, we want to learn more about all this with the radio frequency, as that is our movement here at CHA. Okay, is combating that radio frequency for healthier living. So part of combating the radio frequency is knowing about it, right? Being aware of it. And then you start to have questions like, well, so how does that work? Because the more aware you are, the more you can counter effect, if you will. All right. And so, Chris, thank you for the questions. I've got them right here. I've also got the article that came from www.electricalpollution.com. I'm going to give y'all a backstory because when I found this article, it was during my master, like right smack dab in the middle of my master's program, obtaining a master's in forensic toxicology, you all. It's not, and we don't talk just about drugs, psychoactive substances. No, I had to learn about metal toxicity. And so when the ex-psycho roommate started tampering with or increasing the electrical pollution inside the house, my hearing aids picked it up. And so I started doing some research. I came across this because I was starting to experience some things that I was like, hold up a second. I know my body. I know me. And I was like, I'm on the blood type diet. I'm working out. I'm sitting here thinking to myself, this doesn't make any sense why I would be experiencing this, that, or the other. And so God guided my steps. I didn't know that yet, but yeah. Okay, so let me go ahead and do the usual check. Okay, there we go. All right. Yes. You are very welcome. Because I had asked God, I said, so what is today's Truth Seeker topic? And then I get this email from Chris with these questions. There you go. Let's do it, right? So you could feel the poison in your system earlier today, and it was interfering with your nervous system. Yes, RF poisoning is absolutely a real thing. Yes, and yes, thank you for sharing, okay? Because you're not alone. When we start detoxing from radio frequency poisoning and reducing our salt intake, I'm going to read a little bit to you all. Okay, this article, okay, it's written by Catherine Kleiber, I guess, from the electricalpollution.com. Now, mind you, that there's a lot of people who don't realize that the majority of ailments out here are RF symptoms, and that's it. Jesus cleans everything. Jesus heals. But see, without trusting God 100%, and without knowing that, without having Jesus, without having your soul saved, you go to all these specialists out here with a particular symptom, right? And they all just look at you like you got 3 heads, right? Oh, well, here, just take this pill. What for? How about tell me what's going on? They wouldn't answer you. Well, now you got your answers right here at Consultant for Heightened Awareness. A lot of what we have experienced throughout our entire life, the world tried to tell us we had this wrong with us or we had that wrong with us. Take this pill and just shut up. That's basically what the Matrix does. So I am Michelle Dickey, master consultant, coach, trauma specialist, minister, and author. That's right, at Consulting for Heightened Awareness, CHA, and your host for this CHA's Truth Seeker podcast. And we're helping survivors of traumatization from narcissist abuse overcome the trauma triggers, life obstacle, radio frequency poisoning, that's a life obstacle, and unpack that bag of talents and gifts on the inside from God and more. Okay, we are a growing community of spiritual warriors for Christ and truth seekers. So if you're looking for a community that knows about the game of narcissism on the world stage and you want to heal and grow, you've come to the right place at the right time, as always, at God's appointed time. Galatians 4, verse 2. All right, everybody, but radio frequency poisoning is a real thing. And there's a lot of people who this will not even touch. Okay, but you can understand how it affects your nervous system when you get the chemistry behind it. And so that's going to come from this big, gigantic, gold-frank toxicologic emergencies, the 10th edition. This is one of my textbooks from my master's program. Okay, the master's is hanging on the wall. It's above the bachelor's right here. Okay, yeah, it's up there. Hold up. There you go. All right. So, I had to learn about metal toxicity, and it was not a coincidence. Here's the backstory, you all. It's not a coincidence. At the time that I was studying, and we had a whole, like almost, not the whole semester, but a good portion of it talking about the periodic table and metals and things like that. I took chemistry as part of my bachelor's program. That's a bachelor's in criminal justice. And my advisor knew I was going to get a master's in forensic toxicology, so she recommended I take a chemistry course. And I did. I've still got my books. And I may bring y'all some of that to the academy, all right, as well. But for now, backstory time. Okay, a little story time, because I don't believe in coincidences. Oh, no, So as I was roommating with the ex-psycho roommate, and he was up the electrical pollution, also known as EMF, inside the house. The hearing aids picked it up, and I was like, and then I started experiencing some things, and I noticed, hold up a second, that's not normal for me. What is that? So I started, Googling it. Came across this article. But that was also during the same time I was learning about metal toxicity. Not a coincidence. You see, God. God. He is the Almighty for a reason. He's the Almighty God for a reason. So, when I started noticing it, and I said, okay, I see what's going on with symptomology. See, I break this article down on the Patreon channel, so I'm just gonna cover the first little bit, okay, when we get to it, because the rest of it, I have 3 parts to this on a Patreon channel where I break it down, because we move away from the worldview on things and God's reality, because God shows us the truth, and I got proof, because it goes right in line with just how powerful our thoughts are. What a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. God is not kidding about that. And so I know if y'all happen to see any light bruising arm, don't panic. It's all good. Cause they're they're actually a light brownish yellowish, meaning they're going away. Okay, right? It's all right. We're not we're not in pain and suffering over here. No. Jesus is on the job. We got some arnica gel and arnica cream, what have you. Okay, we're good. All right. So I want y'all to get a clear understanding of why this became our movement. Because this third detox, I'm sitting here going, man, really? Something's up with this. Well, God gave us this movement to help you all so you can feel better. God don't want y'all sitting around in pain and suffering anymore. And that's what radio frequency sickness does. It causes all of those. I'm going to break it down again in its simplicity for you all, because it really is very simple what's going on inside the body when exposed to more radio frequency than what the body can adapt to in a given time. So the X-Cycle was doing that, and I started Googling and researching the symptomology. Like I said, I found this article, and I was learning about metal toxicity. I started to smell the radio frequency because it had a metallic smell to it. Radio frequency poisoning is just like metal toxicity because the salts on the inside of our body serve as a magnet for radio frequency. So if y'all take some of those little black graphites, right, and you put them in a baggie, maybe have a little bit of, I don't know, I don't think you want a gel or a solution or a magnet on the outside of that bag, and you'll watch that sucker will follow that magnet. That little salt molecule, yes, it will. It will follow that magnet. Wherever I saw it down in the rabbit hole. So, oh yeah, it makes perfect sense. What is radio frequency caused by, right? Okay. Electrical components. Think about that for a moment. This PC, right? It is an electronic. These smartphones are electronics. All of it emitting frequencies, but not any of them are allowed by law to emit more than microwave ranges. That's law. Okay? And so once I started to pick up on this, the backstory, so y'all get a clear picture how this came to be, our movement here, and why this was a big part of, a big part of unmasking, if you will, the devil's deception. We're using radio frequency to manipulate our autonomic nervous system. And how it does that. Because excessive salt on the inside of the body is what makes us jumpy. Seriously, how many times did the narcissist sneak up on us and we go, right? That's what they want. Because we had too much salt in the body. That's one of the first revelations that God showed me when I stopped adding salt to things. And we got the excess salt out of our body. Okay? It's one of the first things that God revealed to me because I was no longer jumpy. Okay, we on to something. Then he reminded me, okay, you're learning about metal toxicity and radio frequency poisoning at the same time. That was not a coincidence. That was done for a time such as this. So once I caught on to what the ex-psycho roommate was doing, I remember going into my closet in my bedroom because I had to put a security camera up in my bedroom there towards the end as I was planning to move and packing and all that, because I was like, why is he in my room? He has no reason to be in my room. But he was stunning the motion sensor on the camera somehow. And I said to myself, what is that? And so I go into my closet where my supplements and things like that were. Because what he did is out back where the pool area was, okay, on each end of the house, up at the top. Because I came, once I uncovered spyware on my phone, I said to myself, why? Oh, he was having a pretend affair. And anyway, y'all listen, it was hilarious, still funny, because that's, listen, that is how delusional they really are. Okay, these evildoers. Okay, I'm getting a photo here for y'all because I'm just giving you a brief synopsis here, because you can learn more about the ex-psycho roommate in Real Events of Narcissistic Abuse, Someone's Survival Guide. Okay, I highly encourage y'all to hop on over to the website and click on, that's in the description below, and click on BTBW Magazine, my books and publication. Okay, click on that in the navigation drop down menu. Read those reviews. Okay, read the reviews. They're fantastic. Plus, it gives you a more solid understanding also how this ministry came to fruition. But the ex-psycho roommate had Wi-Fi antennas installed to increase the frequency out back. I remember standing in the kitchen, the little breakfast table there, and I remember standing in the kitchen, I was looking out, and all of a sudden, because I used to go on that porch in the morning talking on the phone with the Jezebel that gave birth to me. I didn't know about all of that at the time. So I'm talking to her over my morning tea, outside. So what he was doing was trying to rig up. Oh, I had to take a crash course in the law of reflection, physics 101, all of that. I sure did. And I saw the sine waves from, because I showed up at the house while he had one of his buddies up on the ladder putting that sucker in. I caught him in the act. And he was, and ex-psycho was acting a bit funny. I said, you just told on yourself right there, because I already knew what he was doing. And so he was rigging it up to where I could not go out back and get any sunshine vitamin D. But see, he's an idiot, because all I had to do was go to the vitamin shop and get myself a vitamin D supplement, which is exactly what I did. So I called on. And see, they're doing that when they manipulate the weather out here, they're doing the same thing on Zap Days. Oh, talk about making that connection. That's for another day. This backstory here. Okay, so when I caught them in the act, I said, I see what he's doing. Because all of a sudden, my Wi-Fi mesh started acting up. And he didn't have access to that. Oh, he got mad too, because he asked why he couldn't connect to my Wi-Fi. I was like, because you have your own. Duh. Oh, he got mad. But I know why he wanted to do that. Right, he wanted to, right, remember, the devil wants to infiltrate whatever will let him infiltrate. Never forget that. And so when he rigged that up, I remember standing in the kitchen. The door was glass door, obviously, so I could see it. Yeah, one afternoon, I'm just standing there, and I was like, what is that? And I saw, you've seen the heat waves on the ground, right? Like after a good rain, if it's hot outside, you see the heat, right? Okay, a similar effect is what I started to notice out back. And I also noticed that there were hardly any birds or squirrels coming around anymore. And that used to be pretty prevalent before all of that. And so he was rigging it up to where I couldn't get outside and sunbathe or anything like that, thinking that he was going to deplete my body of vitamin D, and oh well, we got around that resistance. And so by doing that, what happened was I learned that sine waves don't go up. They can't. Sine waves will go either this way and create that effect, or they'll go down, and they will go right, because exactly, radio frequencies. That's what sine waves are. Radio frequencies. All right, and so there's a wave, but they're looking for that thing to zap. Little did I know, while I'm sitting here talking on my phone, that that's exactly what he was trying to do, is rig it up to where electrocute me while I'm through my phone, while I'm on the phone. I found a similar setup inside the garage, because when the temperature cooled off outside, I would go to the garage because that was a season where I used to smoke cigarette and we couldn't smoke in the house. But I could smoke in the garage because we had an air purifier, fan, what have you. I could open up the garage door, whatever, if it wasn't too cold. And he was doing the same thing. There was a workbench here, and the chair where I would usually sit was right here. And then to my left, one morning I noticed a light fixture that wasn't there before. But it was a LED type thing. He was trying to rig up another on the phone. Well, he never got a chance to use that either because I dismantled it. Oh, yeah. Every time I saw what he was doing and the frequencies outside for being zapped, he had those on timers. I got rid of those. Oh, his little, yeah, and how he was stunning the motion sensor was with an old-timey baby monitor. Okay, that's what I was getting at when I got my closet. Thank you, Holy Spirit, for bringing us back to that. Okay, so yeah, it was a baby monitor. And let me tell you, God said, move that bag back. And I saw it, and it was hissing zzz, and aimed right at my camera. And I said to myself, whoa. When I touched it, I got a little bit of an electrical shock. But I grabbed a bag, and that baby monitor, the timers, and a few other little gadgets, like a compass. Yeah, all kinds of little stuff, like what he was doing. He was trying to draw in as much radio frequency and aim it at my bedroom, because I remember going to the restroom one evening. I didn't turn on the light. But just as I finished up, I saw him come out of I closed my door. I saw him come out of his room with one of those old-timey cameras with the flash. That's frequency. And I heard the poof and saw the flash go off. I went, oh, he's trying to electrocute me while I'm sleeping. No wonder I was waking up, breaking out in sweats. Right? No wonder, because he was getting that internal body heat as high as he could get it. And so once I caught on to what he was doing, I said, oh, okay. So we finally picked the day and all of that. And yeah, the parents came with the U-Haul, and I was out of there shortly after. So once I discovered all that, by the time when I got to the house where I used to live in North Carolina, I started finding all kinds of things. RFID tags that were actually active inside books. I was finding these little magnets that were, one inside my safe. So I had to replace my safe. I had to replace my guitar. I had a different electrical acoustic at one time, but I had to trade that in because he tampered with it. And then the little refrigerator. Yep, I discovered he tampered with it. There was a lot of things that I had to get rid of. Yes, and then I had to go through that season of figuring out how he was still tracking me. And as you'll learn in Real Events of Narcissistic Abuse, it was through my cellular carrier that he was doing it, because when he broke into my safe that I had at that house, yes, all he had to do was look at the back. I didn't realize this, but the serial number was still on the safe. All he did was copy that down, call the manufacturer, and claim that he lost the key. That's one of the main reasons why he wanted in my room, because inside my safe is where I stored index cards for my account and password. So I had a lot of changing passwords that I had to do. Oh, yeah, all the way across the board. And so I just want y'all to know. And then username in some cases as well, because that's the only way he could, that's the only way he could still track me, because I had all Apple products. There was no way that he was getting in none of those. Because I talked to a detective, I talked to a private investigator, I talked to, oh my goodness, the Apple representative and the people at my cellular carrier. I mean, it was quite the season, but we got through it. So that was just the first go round. Now here's the second go round with radio frequency poisoning. After we already detoxed a second time, mind you, not necessarily from radio frequency poisoning, but from, well, that was the second time. Because the first time that I detoxed, and I did not know that I was detoxing, was when I got on the blood type diet for the very first time. So over time, see, this is why he got that crazy, sick idea. And that tells me that all those old-timey gadgets, that tells me that that's what happened to him as punishment when he was growing up. Absolutely. One or both parents likely used those same methods on him. How else is he going to know about that stuff? Right. So, how to do all that. And that also tells us that's not his first rodeo. He's done that to others. Oh, sure. Because what do we know about these psycho narcissists? They love to relive their own trauma. That's right. So that became the second go round that I had to detox from. Because like I said, the first one I didn't realize, but I did. Because over time on the blood type diet, toxins and stuff were getting out. Because I was working out, getting in shape and all of that. And so his demon spirit could see that. My ANS was healed. So then he had to re-traumatize my ANS a little bit. So he did. But he couldn't do it to the extent that he was hoping. So the devil sends that Jezebel case study across my path to try and see if she finished the job. She might have re-traumatized little Michelle, but certainly not me. And all she did was help us become aware of our ANS. And so now it's like, oh, okay. So we're detoxing for the third time from poisoning, because in the previous environment with the Jezebel who gave birth to me, all that crazy making that went down, when she was diagnosed with what are actually radio frequency symptoms, and I'm going to explain that in its simplicity one more time. The devil needs people to consume excessive salt and sugars, because that leads to the creation of excessive mucus. The mucus serves as a house for the salt molecule, which are metals. Okay? Sodium is a metal. Okay? Look on the periodic table. Y'all can look that up. All right, we're going to get to it here in just a moment. But I got to wrap this backstory up. I'm going to get to your questions and the comments and things, okay? But I want to get this backstory out so you understand clearer what combating radio frequency for healthier living is our movement here. Because part of trauma healing is spiritual growth. Absolutely. So when the time came for her to have oxygen tanks, boy, let me tell you, that is some frequency right there. Wow. And because they didn't have top of the line insurance and stuff like that, it was the old timey, big, bulky, they had to put water in it. And it, oh my God. And the beep, when you turn it on, beep, high frequency. And then as it's running, constant. Okay, that's the high frequency, low frequency. Not a coincidence. Okay? And so, I know Chris said I'm the Michelle Winslow Police Academy with my sound effects. All right. Anyhow, with all of that going on, and then right when she was becoming more bedridden, I had a TV that I wasn't using anymore. I didn't turn it. Was in my room, just a regular small one. They asked if they could use it. Oh, but it wasn't big enough, so they put it in the other spare bedroom. And because she wanted, I need a big TV. She said, "Oh, a big one." Okay, nothing's ever enough for a narcissist. Remember that. So they go and they get this big screen TV. And because I'm not wearing these inside that house, and I think you can understand why, because they had TV going in the living room, TV going in the bedroom, oxygen tanks on and off. That was a lot of crazy making. And then they were manipulating the smoke detector, high frequency, and even leading up to her becoming bedridden, they were doing that. I caught on to it. I caught on to what they were doing. I was like, oh yeah, deliberately cooking things at a temperature in the oven they knew was going to set that thing off. Come on now. So anyhow, so all of that going on inside that house. And we now know why. Because the enemy could see that my ANF was healed. And that the highs and lows was not manipulating my ANF anymore. Because we've overcome trauma trigger. Their demon spirit could see that. The Jezebel case study, every time she booked a session or claimed to watch it, I believe she watched some videos where we're in the car and you can see we're all calm. And she also did make that statement about on one of our business trips. She was in awe of the calm and the peace that she sensed coming from myself. Oh, that irritated the devil to no end. And so she also knew that I was deviating a little bit more from my blood type diet, meaning I was taking in a bit more salt than I normally would on a regular basis. And that, right, okay, and I hadn't yet quit smoking. But I used a vape to quit smoking a few months before the Jezebel passed away. Yes, I did. But I was still vaping. Vaping is nothing but a salt pod. I want y'all to know that the enemy wants people to vape because you're inhaling nothing but salt. Well, and other chemicals. Because that's one of the things I noticed. So it didn't take me long to get off of that when I got in here and got a little more stable. I was like, all right, I'm dedicated. I want to get off this thing. I'm done. I want no more of this. So, yes, we quit that. And coming up on the 1 year mark for that as well. So, during that time, I was vaping. So, I was inhaling air pockets. Remember I said excess salt and sugar lead to excess mucus that will have the salt molecule that will eventually travel to places of excess fatty tissue and or areas of past injury or present injury. Okay? If there's any fatty tissue. Okay? It's going to go there. So this Jezebel case study, she knew that. Okay? She knew that stuff about me. She also knew things about me that I had never divulged. And that's what led me to know, oh, these Jezebels, they passed the baton. So the Jezebel that gave birth to me passed the baton to her about certain things, compliments that I used to get growing up. I didn't tell nobody about. I don't go telling people stuff. I was like, how does she know that? The only way she could have known that is because the Jezebel that gave birth to me happened to be present when people would give me that compliment. Remember, narcissists hate it when we get a compliment. Okay? Especially if it's anything about our body's physique, if you will. Okay? And so, yeah, that was like, red flag. So I said, okay. She knew all that. So she had planned out to lure me down there. Right? She lured me down there. God said, no, we got confirmation to get because I'm suspecting that this one's not serious at all about healing from trauma. And I got my confirmation. Okay, because she was doing a lot of the thing that narcissists do with the love bomb, devout. I caught the evil smirk a couple of times, even though she tried to be subtle with it. See, they can't hide forever, y'all. They can't hide these things forever. And so as soon as I got to her place, I noticed that she caused an air conditioning incident because she didn't really want to help unload the U-Haul, but she paid the air conditioner guy to do it, right, to help unload the U-Haul with my totes and stuff. Now, I knew I was not going to be there long. I just needed to get the confirmation. I didn't know it would just go. I did not know that I was only going to be there not even 24 hours. Okay, I did not know that, but I got my confirmation. And so for those of you who have heard the story, the rest of that is on the Patreon channel as well. And stay tuned because I've got tons of Jezebel case study. And so she did what she did because she needed to put bruises just to get them started. That's all she had to do, was just get them started. It gets certain places, like dragging me down those stairs, right? And then letting my arms, like along here, right? As she going down those stairs and there's a wall, right? So after turning the corner, my arm is getting scraped against that wall. Okay? So, right, same thing on the side of my leg and stuff. And I know that when she dragged me down, because why? Okay, real quick, because my right foot had the pattern of these 3 fingers and a thumb around my ankle on the front. Okay, bruises. The pattern tell a story. Forensic analysis I had to do on myself. Because her story, full of holes. And my subconscious was awake while they put staples in the little gash that she made with the very glass she spiked. Okay? So it felt too familiar to me. I was like, whoa, hold on a second. This is too familiar. And so after I divulged it to the doctor who was watching over me, and I let him know about my degrees, and I let him know that, and he goes, oh, yeah. But see, that's the other thing, y'all. What gave it away the most was she was trying to say that I fell downstairs. Well, her stairs have carpets, and I had 0 carpet burn. So let that sink in, okay? So that's what made me go, But see, I didn't know that my ANS was re-traumatized at the time when I left the hospital and got here. So I'm bouncing back and forth between hotels. I did not know where the bruises were yet, except for that one on the ankle, because God needed me to see that. God made sure I saw that pattern because he knew I was going to make the connection. This is why I am also a forensic consultant. For anybody who wants to know what really happened the night before you wake up in the hospital and they're trying to tell you some story and that's all you got. Or you want to know what happened, how'd you end up there, why? And you may not know that maybe your drink was spiked. Okay? Yeah. So I can help you. Absolutely. All I need is if you've got any photos of bruising or you remember the pattern, you remember the story that they told you, that's all I need. I can see through the holes. All right? Absolutely. So keep that in mind. That's where that comes from. Right? But she had to put bruises in places so that I would continue to get zapped at the grocery store. Okay? And then by sirens and things like that, being unaware of that to keep my ANS asleep. See, when we got here though, and I started to get stable, my ANS started waking up, and I was laying in bed. God was waking me up one morning, and the smoke detector, the high frequency, it went off. It just beeped one time, and I felt what Chris is talking about, felt the poisoning. I felt that tug right here on the right side of my tailbone area, like right on the right side. I felt that inside the muscle, literally. I felt the tug upward because it was, going towards the direction of the sound. That's what I'm saying. That was a salt molecule. That's a magnet it was pulling up, and I went, aha! That's when my ANS became a case study. And that is how the trauma intensive healing course #1 came about, the inner workings of our ANS at CHA Academy, btbw.com. So now, okay, how does this radio frequency poison the body like that? Well, remember, the conditions on the inside have to be right. You have to have excessive salt, some sugar. You have to have enough molecules being housed inside a mucus pocket. And those have to be next to an air pocket. Remember the vaping, smoking cigarette until I quit? Okay, well, and she did the tightening of the bra. Okay, she got this thing as tight as she possibly could to slow down my circulation so that the injuries, as minor as they are, that she caused, okay, would be prolonged. Because the bruises that are in place, right, that I would contribute to making a little worse because I didn't know they were there yet. And so it would serve as a plug, prolong radio frequency poisoning symptoms. So there's your backstory, okay? I know exactly all of that. And so let me get over here and see what we've got over here. Okay. Right, where you were talking about you felt the poison in your system earlier. And it was, right, interfering. That's what it's supposed to do. Okay, radio frequency poisoning is supposed to interfere with our nervous system. Oh, God, yeah, obviously. Especially the autonomic nervous system. Because the highs and the lows are used to manipulate the ANS. So, right, how about listening to the patient and forget about another pointless? I know, but see, that's all they want to do. They want to keep you anemic. They want to keep you anemic. Well, you know what? Compensation from the people who put out that radio frequency on a daily basis. You know what? It's unfortunate, but we're the ones that gotta reduce our exposure to it to get fully healed. Once your ANS is fully healed, y'all, once your inner child is fully healed, it can't be manipulated anymore. So that's the point. But you have to be aware of that. You see, I didn't know about my ANS being fully healed because it was. And so now we're getting her back into the present again and for the final time because now we're aware and becoming more aware of all the frequencies around us and what they're designed to do. And it's not our fault that we've been feeling unwell and fatigued and needing time off work and all of that. Oh, of course, no, it's not. Because the brain is a biological computer. Yes, it is, because the brain can be programmed. We know this. The narcissists are perfectly programmed. The sleepers out there, perfectly programmed. And so it is. And it responds to temperature just like the PC microchips do. Exactly. Thank you. All right. Overheating slows a computer down. That's why computers need cooling fans. Thank you. Okay. So finally got the Amazon review up. It needs to be approved before it will be live. Okay. Thank you for. I'm going to make a note. Because I'm not sure if I got to do that or they got to do that. But thank you. I appreciate that. So I'll check that. Okay. Right. This podcast episode, we are going to get through all of the questions, and I'm going to break it down for you all. But I want to get to the comments. Listen, you all have a voice too. Okay, so Waterstone, Barnes and Noble, been dropping positive reviews all over. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, it's a heat haze. Yeah, the heat haze from the sine waves when I was describing that the birds and squirrels, yeah, they weren't coming around. That was a huge clue for me because I was feeding the squirrel peanut. They were actually coming up close enough to almost grab the peanut out of my hand. It was so cool. Yeah. Okay. It took them a while to learn how to trust me, but if I went out there with some peanut and because they love them things, right? Oh yeah, it was so cute. Cause I had a couple of them that if they saw me sitting on that step with some peanut, it didn't take them long. They would come right on up, and sometimes they would stop, and I'd have to throw it to them. But they were getting close enough. It was starting to get close enough to where they almost came and got them out of my hands, and he started pulling that stuff. Because I caught him out there trying to get the squirrel to come to him and take the peanut. They weren't coming to him. That should tell you something. Animals, they know. They can tell. And he was. Complete psycho. How you get two routes for people abused by their parent. One route is the people who never want to perpetrate the same situation. Well, they do. Narcissists want to relive their traumas, and they'll do it through whoever their target is. Yep. It's like your sister and brother-in-law's house. The TV is huge, takes up an entire corner of and the TV, let me tell you something. That television emits a ton of radio frequencies. Oh yeah. And remember, the higher the volume, the higher the frequency. So let's break it down, shall we? I'm going to go read to you from this article, again, written by Catherine Kleiber. Now remember, I put the link to electricalpollution.com. Here we go. Let me put it in here for you all. You can check this stuff out yourself. I've got it up at the Academy. But just remember the spiritual truth. Okay? But basic information there for you all. Okay. Now, I'm going to read radio frequency sickness, what they call it. But it's from radio frequency poisoning. So radio frequency sickness results from overexposure to radio frequency radiation. That's simple. Radio frequency sickness is not a disease. It is an environmentally induced functional impairment. Yes. Radio frequency sickness has real and disabling consequences. Yes. People with radio frequency sickness experience illness or even death upon exposure to radio frequency radiation. The most common sources are electrical pollution, high frequencies that travel on building wiring or through the ground, and transmitters, all wireless devices. But you got to think about your appliances, the air conditioner, LED lights, shredder, printer, anything. Yeah. Microwave, stove, oven, teapot, any grooming tools that you use with batteries, all of that emits frequency, every bit of it. It's all around us. The fan, little desk fans that we have going here and there. All right, so there's a lot more that goes into it. It's all around us. Fire truck, right? Okay. Highs and lows. That's deliberate. Your garbage truck, when they back up, beep, beep, beep. Any vehicle that's equipped with that, that's high frequency. Think about garbage can, right? It's metal. Whenever the garbage truck dumps, boom, 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 that's a low frequency. And then they got to put the trash can back, and then they got to beep, 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 back up so they can turn to go out. Awareness. Radio frequency sickness develops when the exposure overwhelms the body's ability to compensate for the effect produced by the exposure, often within 3 to 5 years. Now, in some cases, It's a lot sooner because we are now in today. I don't have a date. Let's see if this was published in 2009. Okay, we are in 2024. So that often within 3 to 5 years, it's less than that now. It's less than 3 years, y'all, when you're aware of it. Okay, because the radio frequency symptoms this go around for me from the last crazy making season didn't even take a year. Not because I'm sensitive to it, but because the Jezebel case study knew where to start bruises on the body to serve as plugs to prolong the symptoms. Because had I known and what I know now, like 8 months ago, I'd be a lot farther along. However, the blessing in disguise again, because bring y'all that autonomic nervous system course. And so, detrimental biological effects, distinct from tissue heating effects. Remember, that salt on the inside of the body serves as a magnet for radio frequency. So the more radio frequencies that your body is absorbing, it's not able to compensate because the internal heat, tissue heating effect on the inside. Okay, and they have been extensively documented in studies at a range of different frequencies and at levels far below the current U.S. safety standard. The rest, a little more of that, again, on the Patreon channel, but y'all can look it up. It's also on that website I shared in the chat there. So now, let's break it down from a toxicological perspective. I'm going to simplify this for you, okay? But I'm just going to read a few highlights, again, inside this big green book, okay? All right. I've got the periodic table over here, but we're not going to, we may cover some of the specific metals later, but first question that Chris asked, okay? Right, there must still be sufficient salt and sugar in our system to allow the point. That's right. Okay, first and foremost, okay, the internal condition have to be right. You got to have air pockets. Okay, you got to have air pockets, that mucus house with a salt molecule next to it, because when the body's internal heat gets too high, that metal molecule expands and it'll push up against that air pocket. That's what causes the pain. And many of us, before we knew all that, we would get tricked into going and taking stuff over the counter, pain meds and stuff, and we stopped doing that because that's not helping. That's only masking. That's only prolonging. Okay, so we got to remember that the salt are metal salt, and there's a ton of them. In fact, metals make up the majority of our periodic table. Let that sink in. All right, you've got right, and there's a lot of factors that go into whether or not you're going to experience the toxicity, which is essentially the symptoms from radio frequency poisoning. Because radio frequency is what? It is an electrical current being blasted out. Electrical current. So, chemical reactivity, all right, to answer the question. So what is happening within the body as a reaction that converts radio waves into a poison? Okay, it's through the salt that's inside the body. Okay, it is a metallic reaction, chemical reactivity. Okay, that's another way to say that, with the metal salts inside the body. When the body on the inside, it's nice and hot, moist, right? And then the oxidation process. Because one thing I have learned by watching how the dust to dust occurs inside this apartment, because that dust stems from the metals and the salts that are in the air and inside cleaning solution inside the paint. So I've been watching the reaction. It's a chemical reaction, very simple, between water, air, and salt on the external. So same concept applies on the internal, okay, as the radio frequency waves are being converted to that poison. So, right, because, well, I mean, they are poisonous anyhow, but you got to have that excess salt and sugar on the inside. So if the radio frequency is still affecting your nervous system, then yeah, you got some more detoxing to do. Okay, just know that. And you'll start to notice it lessen and lessen and lessen, okay? So just be mindful of that too. That's why we're very big on be careful how you move. Watch how you are turning and twisting and all of that, because salt is a stiffener, and we're going to get to that because that answers your final question of prolonged exposure. Okay, not just from the article, but okay, because it's also it's all chemistry going on. Okay, so on the external, okay, you have air, water, salt, chemical reaction. And so it turned, right, it'll turn the salt into one of their little hard graphite. And I found them, right? Animated salt molecules that like to run around every once in a while with the right frequency and vibration activates them. Okay, so I've seen it. I've seen it. Yeah, we don't ignore these things anymore. Okay, so all right, I picked up one of those little salt graphite thingy. Yeah, I have picked up one of them salt graphite thingies and rubbed it, and I felt the heat. I was like, whoa, throw that sucker away, of course, so it don't hatch. Right, anyhow, but that's what's produced. So think about on the inside of the body, same concept. Oxygen, even though the devil targets our oxygen because he doesn't want our, right, he doesn't want, because oxygen is needed for the circulation, right? Yeah, your circulation is needed for the delivery of oxygen, because oxygen helps these things oxidize, which will get it out of the body quicker. That's just it in its simplicity, okay? So I would try not to use overly sophisticated words with y'all, but that just helps you understand that the conditions on the inside of the body have to be right for any of that to take place. And so you ingest the salts, which we're going to. We just learn to be mindful how much, and then we don't add salt to anything, okay? Because there's already enough salt in our foods anyhow. So you have a nice, warm, moist, mucousy atmosphere on the inside of your body. That is a magnet, because of the salt that's on the inside is a magnet for the radio frequency. So it's going to go right where, what frequency goes where depends on the metal salt. There's several different types. So basically, metals in their elemental form are typically malleable solids that conduct electricity, whereas non-metals are usually dull, fragile, and non-conducive compounds. So when you think about the electrical conduct, why I call salt a conduit. What's a conduit? Right. A conduit is any piece of, let's just say, is anything that will connect to and with for electricity to go across. That's it in its simplicity. Right, as a channel of sorts. Thank you. Yeah, it's a channel. All right, for the electricity. Okay, so metals in their elemental form. So when you see salt, right? Okay, you see the little salt molecule. When it's that black graphite, it's in its elemental form. And so it's used to conduct electricity. That's why when I rub it between my fingers, I can feel the heat because it's conducting electricity. So metals do account for the majority of our elements on the periodic table. Okay, and so trend in the chemical reactivity. All right. Okay, although they're conceived and organized in the periodic table, trends in the chemical reactivity and therefore toxicity typically exist within the groups. It's right there. So the ability of any particular element to produce toxicologic effects relate directly to one or more of its many physiochemical properties. I say that a lot, just differently. Okay, the types of symptoms, the types of radiofrequency symptoms, and the things that we experience when overexposed, it's going to vary greatly depending on the metal and its physiochemical properties. In other words, the chemical makeup. Like what all is it? So if any of you have seen this with chemistry, you got the capital H2O2 plus Fe2 plus. Okay, that's right. They call them. Well, the Fe is iron. We know that, and iron does what? It's the oxygen component, right? Where we get our oxygen from. Okay, so. And then you have metals that are unstable, and you have metals that are stable. Your heavy metals are, your heavier metals have the higher atomic mass on the periodic table. So those are going to be the most unstable and therefore unpredictable, the most unpredictable. And then any predictability for the chemical reaction of a particular metal or group of metal, it's a broad spectrum. Okay, it's gonna depend on which metal salt is related to frequency. For example, mercury is activated by the higher frequency. Thallium is activated by the lower frequencies. How do I know that? Well, my body was a science experiment for a short time when I had thallium staples back here. And I learned, right, because I was using a battery-operated grooming tool to trim my eyebrows, and I felt the whole side. Wait a minute. I felt the electrical shock on the right side where the staples were. And those surgical staples are typically made of the metal thallium. What are your dental fillings? Those of us who have them, right? I looked it up. And the only metal that I could see that would have any kind of like reaction, if you will, mercury. That's in the metal stuff that they use for that. Okay, so that's just to give you an example, and I'm just getting started with that. Okay. We've got some research to do for y'all. I'm gonna bring you more about that. Okay, but just to give you an idea. Okay, explaining to you what's happening because it is through the electrical process. Okay, like you said, our brain is like a circuit board. Okay, it is. It totally 100% is. Full of nerves and all that, right? And so it's another reason why We learn to be more mindful what we're putting inside our bodies because of the digestive system and all of that get, oh man, so many things are the result of radio frequency poisoning. Okay, so basically we're just now answering, so does the poison have a particular chemical composition? So yes, we just answered that. And it's going to vary, as I gave you that equation. It's a chemical equation. So yes, they all have their unique property, chemical property. And so the symptoms associated with those, it's going to depend on a number of things. Okay, and that's one of them. It depends on their chemical composition, and it depends on their level of stability. Okay, so you're getting a better idea of what's happening as we are taking in what's happening inside the body as the salt is attracting that radio frequency from wherever it's coming from, and right, it's turning up the body's internal heat, expanding a metal molecule, pushing up against the air pocket, cause a little bit of discomfort. Okay, so that's what's happening in a nutshell, in its simplicity. And it's basically the radio frequency is conducting electricity inside our body through those salt molecules. So the other day, the last business lunch, it was really funny because we were talking about this radio frequency, and I was sitting there. The restaurant had music. You know, music has all kinds of different frequencies. It was a little funny, but I'm sitting there and I'm eating lunch, and I checked on Patreon, and really, yeah, I was checking the comments on Patreon, and as I was eating lunch, I actually could feel certain areas in the body where I know there's a little bit of bruising still left, which means there's a little bit of metal salt still there, and the different frequencies were activating. It was like they were dancing. I literally felt them. I was like, okay, that is crazy. And so it depends on which frequency is connected to, like mercury is activated by the highs, thallium by the lows. So since there was a little bit of both high and low frequency going on with the music, that tells me, okay, well, I know I got mercury. Okay, yeah, I know I've got that. And so that means there's obviously some thallium salts also. Because they were dancing. I was like, okay then. So that's basically what's happening inside the body. The radio frequency is conducting the electricity from within. And so those two questions we've gotten to. So physiochemical, just writing that so you remember the term. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Reducing salt will lessen the poisoning effect on the nerves. Absolutely. Yep, right. Gritting on the roads in winter is just a big salt chunk. Yep. Thank you for bringing up that point. It becomes, right. So the salt, there you go. The salt gets into our system and becomes a saline solution that makes it easier to conduct electrical frequencies. Absolutely. This is why you want to drink that ice water and flush. Okay? So that comes to the next question you have. Is that okay? I'm not sensitive to it. That's the irony behind it. I'm not sensitive, and I'll tell you why. It may seem that way but I'm aware. Right, I'm aware of it. Not sensitive to it. Because it didn't affect me negatively. I thought it was quite funny. But but it just let me know, because that's what's happening to a lot of people who don't know that their ANS is numbed. This is why I'm aware of it. So it's the other way around. But it just tells me, I see where I got some more self-care, if you will. Okay? So, no, most people are sensitive to it because their ANS is numbed and they don't know it. So now, for us becoming aware of all of this, we're not sensitive to it anymore because we're becoming aware of it. There's a big difference. Okay, a huge mobile phone mast around the corner, 50 feet in girth, like a giant tree. Oh, yeah, they're all over the place. Those are emitting frequencies. Absolutely. Okay, so I want y'all to understand that part too. And then also, here's another thing you got to think about: electrons. Okay, electron. That's going to have a lot to do with whether or not they, right, the stability of them. Okay, for losing their electrons and all of that other stuff. But here you go, in their metallic form, okay, the alkali and alkaline earth metal, in their metallic form, members of these groups react violently with water to liberate strongly basic solutions, accounting for their group names, which is basically the saline solution that Chris was mentioning right there. Okay, there you go. Right, making the saline solution so that, right, okay, because the pH balance on the inside of the body gets thrown off with radio frequency poisoning. And so also here, so right, especially the heavy metal. Okay, so the toxicologic mechanism is electrophilic interference with nucleophilic soft hydro containing enzymes. Okay, that just means digestive enzyme. That sophisticated sentence right there simply means that, yeah, it interferes with proper digestion. Okay, that's it in its simplicity right there. So, is there an antidote to the poison? Well, in this book, there are world antidotes, yes. But really, in our season here, y'all, in God's reality, the simple and most effective antidote for radio frequency poisoning is simply detoxing and changing your lifestyle, because as this article here says, that the only cure for radio frequency sickness is to end the exposure to radio frequency radiation. So they would be telling us there's no antidote. But yeah, there is. It's just simply making better choices to live a healthier lifestyle, eating healthier, staying active, and reducing our exposure where possible. In other words, until our autonomic nervous system can no longer be manipulated with the highs and the lows, then you want to be mindful how much frequency you are allowing yourself to be exposed to. Limit your scrolling on social media here and there. All right, yeah, don't be, yeah, and even though these devices don't operate outside of the legal range themselves, you have to think about how many you have around you, right? Okay. So that being said, you just want to, yeah, it's just all about, yeah, making a lifestyle change, and just, yeah, get your fruits, get to low impact working out, however you do it, walking even, burn excess fat, get rid of the fat, because the fatty tissue is what radio frequency poison, yeah, the poison, that's what they like. Okay, so really simply detoxing and changing your lifestyle. So yeah, the digestive system is an ideal area for conducting radio frequency. Absolutely. Why do you think that Jezebel case study targeted my whole digestive area the most? There you go. And it's because the enemy does not want us to get the nutrition that our body needs. But God tells us in Colossians 2, verse 19, it's inevitable. We're going to increase with the increase of God. And this is how we're doing it. right here. So what are the long-term effects on the body if radio frequency poisoning continues over an extended period of time? Well, as I've said before, one of the main reasons that the devil uses radio frequency poisoning, aside from mind control, is to hinder our circulation. Hindering our circulation or interrupting it, what have you, with every zap, which is basically we're being electrocuted. All right? In its simplicity, yeah, radio frequency poisoning is just us being electrocuted. In a very subtle way, too, in most cases. And why I said the enemy cannot change his pattern, God told me today, no, he's not allowed to change that pattern. Because if he does, more people will catch on. Think about it. Because if he changes that pattern, more people will start to become aware of their ANS. Be like, whoa, dude, what's up with that? And then they'll find this ministry, which they're going to anyway. But yeah, it is something, because the long-term effects, we see this, okay? Think about the aging narcissist. Aches and pains all over the place, right? So they continue to pop them pills. Yeah, because they conform to this world. That's the long-term effect. They'll be in constant pain because they're constantly exposed and they haven't detoxed. Okay? Because that's what it does. They'll just continue, right? And remember, excess salt also serves as a stiffener. So you think about the moment throughout our lives where we might have felt a little bit stiff. Well, that's why. Yeah, they don't. Narcs don't age well. Not at all. And right, no, they don't. And because the digestive system get interrupted, and many get tricked into thinking they can't eat certain foods based on an RF symptom. Never forget that. So the long-term effect is malnourishment. Yeah, constant pain and suffering. That's your long-term effect. If you continue to be overexposed to what the body can't adapt to. So I needed to bring this to you all because now you'll have a better understanding, gave you the backstory, gave you a little bit of my toxicology stuff here, and shared that article. Again, broken down in 3 parts on the Patreon channel. And I need y'all to understand, because these RF symptoms are blamed on food. That's not a coincidence. And so, well, yeah, because the devil, right, the Matrix wants you to take its health advice. Don't. Remember, anything the Matrix tried to tell you to do regarding your health, do the opposite. I'm not the only one spreading that message. There's doctors out here trying to tell you that. Okay? That's right. Because the Matrix, that's not your doctor. God Almighty is your number 1 doctor. But there's good ones out here who will tell you what you need, nutrition-wise, who truly do want to see you get better. We want to see you get better every single day as we continue to detox and get better every single day, one day at a time. Well, you're welcome. You're welcome, Chris. And thank you again for inspiring the truth seeker topic, because we're seeking the truth now. What's really going on, right? What is really happening to our body? So what's happening to our body when we're exposed to higher radio frequencies than the body can handle? So you got to be mindful of that. Okay, it's all part of the vigilance and awareness. But when the body's internal heat is too hot, yeah, our bodies are not designed for that. So what are some tips I have for you all? Just like we've got our Patreon digital product line, reducing that sodium. Those guys are there to help y'all do this. So continue to monitor your sodium intake, your salt intake, okay? Monitor that. And increase your protein and potassium. And in some cases, you may need some magnesium as well. I know that's my case. Okay, because the magnesium supplements, for a short time, you won't need them forever because you're changing your diet. And in turn, changing your lifestyle. Okay? Yeah, listen, we're living testimonies here, you all, that it can be done. It's not for the faint at heart, though. You have to remember that. It's not for the faint at heart. Yes. Yes. Well, thank you for the question, because they're very important questions to help. Okay, help people get a better understanding of what's going on with all of this. And so now you got a better understanding of exactly. You got a better understanding as to why that's our movement now. Because I said, oh my goodness, I said, this is a third detox. What's up with this? And the Lord said, yeah, well, guess what? Trauma healing and spiritual growth. But what are you doing as you detox? Combating that radio frequency for healthier living. Because it's totally doable. Because we've already done it. Twice. I just didn't know that that's what it was. But now we do. All about that heightened awareness. To have y'all understand what's going on. And not to be deceived over and over again. And be mindful what you tell yourself. Don't be telling yourself that you're catching this or catching that. Don't go by no. That stuff that we used to buy, that we thought was a cure, actually does the opposite. It prolongs the symptoms. Exactly. I know. Shocker, huh? Because the devil needs to see people in pain and suffering, or what he perceives as pain and suffering. Because that's what the evildoers, that's what they get off on. And I know it's sick, but gotta know. You gotta be in the know. All right, everyone. So, like I said, we were going to go as long as I needed to get these questions answered for you all. And there you have it. So, again, if you have any further questions regarding this, feel free to reach out. That's what we're here for. If you leave the questions in the comments on the replay, I'll get to those as soon as I see them. Because sometimes I don't see them right away. So, what the heck is going on with the radio frequency stuff and why and the how, etc. Exactly. Because the devil needs to keep people malnourished. He needs to keep the autonomic nervous system numbed so that they become more accident prone. That's the simplicity of it right there, because that's the long-term effect, right? Is that they don't know their ANS is asleep, okay, or numbed, if you will, because the high and low frequency together, all right, it kind of like keeps it, right? High, low, manipulate it, confuse it, right? Confuse that nervous system, the ANS, and then, right, and then expose it to that both high and low at the same time to keep it, right, to interfere with proper elimination, digestion, all that, hinder your circulation. You don't know that yet. And so, not being aware of it, let's say you go and you embark on this new workout program. You're like, yeah, man, I'm feeling good. And then all of a sudden, it's unfortunate, but it happens. And so then they got a call. Yep. And that person gets carried off into and probably tricked into becoming a human lab rat. Because remember, as you'll learn more about on the Patreon channel, one of the reasons why the enemy needs as many people to go to the hospital. It's one of the only way he can monitor whether or not the radio frequency is having the negative intended effect on people. That's one of the only ways that he'll know. Because over time, who's awake and who's still asleep. So, but right, that's it. Devil keeping people down without them being aware of how it's happening. They just know that they feel down and not in the best of mental and physical health. That's right. They don't realize it's radio frequency poisoning. Bottom line. All right, everybody. So there you go. There you go. Seriously, it's an amazing discovery. All right, but we got to keep on keeping on. And I want to thank all of you who download Real Talk with God's Wisdom videos right off the website. Highly appreciate y'all. All that's for you, for your leveling up. Yes, with the trauma healing, spiritual growth, and heightened awareness. So that wraps this one up. All right, everybody. So I'm sending love and light to all fellow warriors. Thank you for watching, listening, and for your continued support. Till next time, let's show some gratitude to the Heavenly Father. And you keep being you. In Jesus' name, amen. Real Talk with God's Wisdom videos, parts 8 through 12, are available at cdhrwdrmd.org and downloadable for on up to 3 devices for one low price. You will learn about not believing the lies about elites, how it's a narcissistic world, the matrix and physical abuse, our ANS and stability, and how the devil uses noises for traumatization, for more trauma healing, spiritual growth, and heightened awareness. These videos are a great addition to your digital library that will serve you well long into the future. Thank you for downloading. Sending love and light always.